Admiral Daniel Carter stood at the observation deck of the Constellation and watched the planet below. Prime was beautiful from space. Its purple oceans and golden continents made it look like a jewel floating in the darkness. This was the heart of the Galactic Council, and humanity had been proud to be part of it for 40 years. Laura walked up beside him. She was wearing her formal diplomatic robes, dark blue with silver trim that showed her rank as Earth's ambassador. Her face looked tired but hopeful. "Big day," she said quietly. Carter nodded. "The Resource Summit. You think they will approve the new trade agreements?" "They should," Laura replied. "We have given them everything they asked for. Our technology, our soldiers, our loyalty. When the swarm attacked their borders, it was human ships that held the line. It was human blood that bought them peace." Carter remembered those battles well. He had lost many good people fighting creatures that were not even threatening Earth. But the Council had asked for help, and humanity had answered. That was what allies did. Captain Cole approached them with a tablet in his hand. He was younger than Carter, with sharp eyes that always seemed to be looking for danger. "Admiral, I need to show you something." "Not now," Carter said. "The ambassador has her meeting in 1 hour." "Sir, this is important." Cole lowered his voice. "Our intelligence teams intercepted communications between council members, private communications that did not include us." Laura frowned. "Council members talk privately all the time. That is normal." "Not like this." Cole handed the tablet to Carter. "They are discussing humanity, and the words they are using are not friendly." Carter looked at the screen. The translation was rough, but he could see phrases that troubled him. Words like containment and prevention and necessary action, but the context was unclear. "This could mean anything," Carter said, handing the tablet back. "The Council has always been cautious about new members. We are still the youngest species in their alliance. Some distrust is natural." Cole shook his head. "Admiral, I have a bad feeling about this." "Your bad feelings are not evidence," Laura said firmly. "I have worked with these people for 15 years. High Counselor himself welcomed humanity into the alliance. They are our friends." Cole said nothing more, but his expression showed he was not convinced. 1 hour later, Laura entered the great chamber of the Galactic Council. The room was massive, built to hold representatives from 12 different species. Giant pillars rose toward a ceiling painted with stars. Floating platforms carried delegates from races that could not walk or breathe the same air. Laura took her place at the human platform. Around her she saw familiar faces, the with their silver skin and 4 arms, the with their rocky bodies and glowing eyes, the who floated like clouds of colored gas. She had shared meals with many of them. She had laughed at their jokes and mourned their losses. High Counselor rose from his central platform. He was tall and elegant, with a voice that carried easily through the chamber. "This emergency session is now called to order." Laura felt a small worry in her chest. Emergency session. That was not what she had expected. "The Council has deliberated in private on a matter of great importance," continued. "We have reached a unanimous decision regarding the human species and their place in our alliance." Laura straightened in her seat. This sounded serious. Perhaps they were going to give humanity a larger role. Perhaps they finally recognized all that humans had sacrificed. "Effective immediately," said, his voice cold and flat. "Humanity is to be quarantined to their home system of Sol. All human colonies outside Sol are now property of the Galactic Council. All human military vessels will surrender to Council forces. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." The words hit Laura like a physical blow. She could not breathe. Around her, delegates from other species nodded in approval. Some of them were smiling. "This is a mistake," Laura said, her voice shaking. "There must be some misunderstanding. We are your allies, we fought for you, we died for you." "That is precisely the problem," replied. "Humanity advances too quickly. You adapt too well. In 40 years, you have grown from a primitive species to a military power that rivals our oldest members. The Council has determined that humanity poses an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. We have never threatened anyone, Laura protested. We have only helped. You helped today. What about tomorrow? Gestured to the other delegates. We have seen your history, your wars, your weapons, your endless hunger for expansion. We will not wait for you to become a threat. We will act now while we still can. Laura stood up on her platform. I demand to speak with my government. This violates every treaty we have signed. Those treaties are no longer valid. Nodded to guards standing near the chamber doors. Ambassador, you are under arrest for espionage against the Galactic Council. Take her. Guards rushed toward Laura's platform. She tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Strong hands grabbed her arms and pulled them behind her back. Daniel, she whispered, hoping somehow he could hear her. Daniel, they have betrayed us. On the Constellation, Admiral Carter received the news through an emergency transmission. His face went pale as he listened to the Council's announcement. Around him, crew members stopped working and stared at their screens in disbelief. All hands to battle stations, Carter ordered, his voice steady despite the fear in his heart. You were right. Get us out of here. Before the ship could move, Council warships appeared from behind Prime. Dozens of them, then hundreds. They had been waiting, hidden and ready. They planned this, Cole said quietly. They planned all of it. The first missiles struck the Constellation's shields. The ship shook violently. Carter grabbed a railing to stay on his feet. Return fire, he commanded. All ships retreat to Earth. Warn everyone. The Council has declared war on humanity. As the Constellation fled through a storm of weapons fire, Carter looked back at the planet that had promised them friendship and gave them only lies. 40 years of trust. Thousands of human lives given in service to the Alliance. And this was their reward. Behind them, human ships exploded one by one, their crews never even understanding why they were dying. The great betrayal had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The Constellation limped through space with smoke pouring from its damaged hull. Half of its crew was dead. The other half worked desperately to keep the ship alive. Admiral Daniel Carter had not slept in 3 days, but he could not rest. Not now. Not when everything was falling apart. Commander Torres found him in the command center, staring at a screen full of bad news. She was a small woman with dark hair and tired eyes, but her mind was sharper than anyone else on the ship. She had spent years gathering intelligence on the Council's activities. Now she finally understood what all those strange signals had meant. Admiral, she said softly, I have finished analyzing the intercepted communications. You need to see this. Carter turned to face her. Tell me. Torres pulled up files on the main screen. Messages between Council leaders dating back 20 years. Secret meetings that humans were never told about. Plans drawn up in detail, waiting for the right moment. They have been afraid of us since the beginning, Torres explained. When humanity first joined the Council, they thought we would be useful, strong soldiers, good workers. But then we started advancing too fast. Our technology improved every year. Our population grew. Our ships became faster and stronger. So they decided to destroy us, Carter said bitterly. Not destroy, control. Torres pointed to a section of text. They wanted to keep us contained in our home system, use us as a labor force, take our colonies and our resources. They never saw us as equals, Admiral. They saw us as tools that were becoming too dangerous. Carter read the words on the screen. Phrases like controlled population and resource extraction and permanent supervision. The Council had never planned to share the galaxy with humanity. They had only been waiting for the right time to put humans back in their place. What about the war? Carter asked. We saved them, we bled for them. Torres looked down. That is the worst part. The Council could have ended that war without our help. They had the weapons and the ships, But they let it continue because they wanted to weaken our military. Every human soldier who died fighting, there was one less soldier who could fight the council. Carter felt sick. All those funerals, all those families who lost fathers and mothers and children. It had all been part of a plan to make humanity too weak to resist. A communication officer called out from across the room, "Admiral, we are receiving reports from the colonies." The screen changed to show images that broke Carter's heart. Council troops landing on human worlds, families being pulled from their homes, children crying as soldiers separated them from their parents. On 22B, Governor stood before a crowd of frightened colonists, trying to calm them as troops surrounded the settlement. "Please remain calm," said in the recording. "We will sort this out. There must be a diplomatic solution." There was no diplomatic solution. The forced to his knees and put restraints on his wrists. They marched the colonists into temporary camps surrounded by energy fences. Anyone who resisted was beaten. Anyone who ran was shot. "How many colonies have they taken?" Carter asked. "All of them," Torres replied. 17 worlds, 42 space stations. We estimate 12 million humans are now prisoners of the Council. Carter closed his eyes. 12 million people. Men, women, and children who had trusted their government to protect them, and he had failed them all. What about Earth? The Council fleet is holding position outside the solar system. They have not attacked yet, but they have blocked all travel in or out. Earth is isolated. A young officer ran into the command center. His face was pale with shock. "Admiral, we have received word about Ambassador. She is alive, but they are holding her in a council prison. They claim she was a spy." "Laura never spied on anyone," Carter said. "She believed in the Alliance more than any of us." "They do not care about truth," Torres said. "They need a story to justify what they are doing. Making her a villain helps them pretend they are the good ones." Carter looked at the faces of his crew. They were scared and angry and confused. They had lost friends today. They had lost their faith in everything they believed about the galaxy. But they were still here, still fighting, still hoping someone would tell them what to do. "How many ships do we have left?" Carter asked. 37, the weapons officer replied, "down from 104. 67 ships lost in a single day, thousands of crew members dead, and the Council had barely suffered any damage at all." "We cannot fight them head-on," Torres said. "We need to hide, rebuild, find a way to strike back when they are not expecting it." Carter nodded slowly. He walked to the center of the command room and looked at his crew. "Listen to me," he said, his voice strong and clear. "Today we lost almost everything. Our colonies, our friends, our trust in the galaxy around us. But we did not lose ourselves. We are still human. We are still alive. And as long as we are alive, we are not defeated." He pointed to the star map showing Council space. "They think they have won. They think we will surrender and accept their chains. But they do not know us. They do not understand what humans do when our backs are against the wall. We do not break. We do not give up. We fight until the very last breath." The crew stood. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others clenched their fists in determination. "Set course for the asteroid belt beyond Neptune," Carter ordered. "There is an old mining station there. Abandoned. Hidden. That is where we will build our new home. That is where we will plan our response." The constellation turned away from the stars that had betrayed them and headed toward the darkness of deep space. Behind them, the Council celebrated their easy victory. They believed humanity was finished. They were very, very wrong. 18 months had passed since the betrayal. Deep in the asteroid belt beyond Neptune, humanity had built a new home. They called it Haven. From the outside, Haven looked like just another rock floating in space. But inside, tunnels stretched for miles through the asteroid's core. Factories built weapons in hidden chambers. Shipyards constructed vessels in secret docks. Thousands of survivors worked day and night, driven by anger and hope in equal measure. Admiral Daniel Carter walked through the main corridor of Haven, nodding to workers as he passed. He looked older now. His hair had turned gray at the edges and deep lines marked his face, but his eyes still burned with purpose. Dr. Price met him at the entrance to her laboratory. She was a tall woman with short red hair and hands that were always covered in grease or chemicals. Before the betrayal, she had designed medical equipment. Now she designed weapons. "Admiral," she said with a tired smile, "I have something to show you." She led him into a massive chamber filled with strange machines and glowing screens. In the center stood a ship unlike anything Carter had seen before. It was sleek and dark, built for speed and power. "Project Reckoning," announced. "This is the first of our new fleet." Carter walked around the ship, studying its design. How does it compare to Council vessels? It is faster by 30%. Our shields can absorb their energy weapons and redirect the power to our own systems. Our missiles use adaptive guidance that learns from enemy countermeasures. Eyes lit up with pride. The Council gave us their technology when we were allies. They never imagined we would improve it and use it against them. "How many can we build?" "In 6 months, we will have 200 ships ready for battle, each one crewed by people who have lost everything and have nothing left to fear." Carter placed his hand on the ship's hull. It felt cold and strong. "This is good work, Doctor, very good work." He left the laboratory and made his way to the command center. Captain Cole was waiting for him there, along with Commander Torres and a young pilot named Marsh. Was only 23 years old, but his eyes looked much older. He had been on 22B when the Council attacked. He watched his parents get dragged away by soldiers. He never saw them again. That pain had turned into something hard and sharp inside him. "Our reconnaissance team just returned," Cole reported. "The news is bad." Torres activated a holographic display showing Council space. Red dots marked Council military positions. Blue dots showed their remaining human intelligence assets. "The Council has grown lazy," Torres explained. "They believe we are finished. Their patrols have decreased by 40%. Their leaders spend more time arguing with each other than watching for threats." "That sounds like good news," Carter said. "This is the bad news." Torres zoomed the display toward Earth. A massive Council fleet surrounded humanity's home planet. "They are preparing something called Final Solution. Our spies discovered the details last week." The room went silent. "They plan to sterilize Earth," Torres continued, her voice shaking slightly. "Biological weapons designed to kill all life on the surface. Every man, woman, and child. Every animal and plant. They want to make sure humanity can never rise again." Slammed his fist against the wall. "We have to stop them." "That is exactly what we are going to do," Carter said calmly. "When do they plan to attack?" 8 months from now. They want to finish building their weapon first." Carter nodded slowly. "Then we have 8 months to save our world and deliver judgment to those who betrayed us." He turned to face his officers. These were the people who had stayed with him through the darkest days. They had buried friends and mourned families. They had worked until their hands bled and slept in cold corridors, and not one of them had ever suggested surrender. "Spread the word to every section of Haven," Carter ordered. "Tell them what the Council plans to do. Tell them we will not allow it. In 6 months we launch our attack." The officers moved to carry out his commands. Only remained behind. "Admiral," the young pilot said, "I want to volunteer for the front assault. I want to be the first one through their defenses." Carter studied the young man's face. He saw rage there, burning hot and dangerous. "Why?" "Because they took everything from me. My home, my family, my future." His voice cracked. "I need them to pay." "Revenge will not bring your parents back, son." "I know," met Carter's eyes, "but it might help me sleep at night." Carter sighed. He understood that feeling too well. Just remember why we are fighting, not just to hurt them, but to protect what is left of us, to save the people who are still suffering under their rule. If we become monsters to defeat monsters, then we have already lost." Nodded, but Carter was not sure the message had reached him. Some wounds cut too deep for words to heal. 2 days later, Carter received unexpected news. A ship from the species had arrived at Haven's hidden location. They were a minor race, always bullied by the Council's larger members. Their ambassador, a being named, came with an offer. "We have watched what the Council did to your people," said. "It is the same thing they have done to us for centuries. Perhaps apart we are weak, but together we might be strong enough to change things." Carter shook his hand. "Welcome to the Resistance." The alliance was growing. The fleet was almost ready. And across the galaxy, the Council had no idea that judgment was coming. The human fleet emerged from the darkness of space like ghosts rising from the grave. 200 ships appeared simultaneously across 12 Council systems. They came from directions the Council had never expected, through routes they thought were impassable. Admiral Daniel Carter led the main assault force toward Prime, the heart of the Galactic Council. On the bridge of his new flagship, the Retribution, Carter watched Council ships scramble to respond. They were confused and afraid. For 18 months, they had believed humanity was finished. They had celebrated their easy victory and divided the spoils of human colonies among themselves. They had forgotten that humanity was never easy to kill. "All ships engage," Carter ordered calmly. The battle began. Human missiles streaked through space, their guidance systems adapting to every countermeasure the Council threw at them. Council ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Their energy weapons fired back, but human shields absorbed the blasts and converted the power into fuel for their own systems. "They cannot touch us," the weapons officer reported with amazement. "Do not get overconfident," Carter warned. "They still outnumber us. Stay focused." Captain Cole commanded a strike force heading straight for the Council prison complex orbiting Prime. Ambassador Laura was inside, along with thousands of other human prisoners who had been held for almost 2 years. Cole's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral, we are approaching the prison. Heavy resistance ahead. Get our people out, whatever it takes." "Yes, sir." Cole's ships punched through the prison's defenses with precise strikes. His boarding teams cut through airlocks and fought room by room through the station. Council guards fell before them, unprepared for the fury of humans who had nothing left to lose. In a dark cell deep inside the prison, Laura heard the sounds of battle. She had grown thin and pale during her imprisonment. They had tried to break her with isolation and lies, telling her that Earth had fallen and humanity was extinct. But she never believed them. She never stopped hopping. The door to her cell exploded inward. A human soldier in combat armor stepped through the smoke. "Ambassador," the soldier asked. Laura smiled for the first time in months. "It took you long enough." Meanwhile, Marsh flew his fighter through the chaos of battle. His squadron targeted Council command ships, cutting off their ability to coordinate defenses. Was the best pilot in the fleet, and today he flew like death itself. "Got another one," his wingman reported as a Council cruiser broke apart. Did not celebrate. He felt empty inside, even as enemy ships burned around him. He had dreamed of this moment for so long, but now that it was here, the pain of his losses did not fade. Killing the enemy did not bring his parents back. Then his sensors detected something unexpected. A civilian transport ship, filled with families, drifting in the crossfire. Council warships were using it as cover, firing from behind it. "There are children on that ship," his wingman said. "The Council is hiding behind their own civilians." His finger hovered over the firing button. He could destroy the warships easily. The transport would be caught in the blast, but that was the Council's fault for using them as shields. It would be justice for what they did to his family. But he hesitated. He thought about what Admiral Carter had told him. If we become monsters to defeat monsters, then we have already lost. All ships hold fire on that sector, ordered. I am going in to draw them away from the transport. He dove his fighter toward the Council warships, weapons blazing, pulling their attention away from the civilian ship. It was a dangerous move that could have killed him, but it worked. The warships turned to chase him, and the transport drifted to safety. Swingman caught up to him after he destroyed the enemy ships. That was crazy. You could have died. I know, replied. And for the first time since 22B, he felt something other than rage. He felt human again. Back on Prime, the Council's defenses collapsed completely. Human ships surrounded the planet, their weapons aimed at the Great Chamber where the Council had sentenced humanity to extinction. Admiral Carter broadcast a message to all species across the galaxy. This is Admiral Daniel Carter of the Human Resistance Coalition. 18 months ago, the Galactic Council betrayed humanity. They tried to destroy us. They failed. Today, we have returned not as conquerors but as judges. We will hold accountable those who committed crimes against our people. We will free those who suffer under Council tyranny, but we will not become what we fought against. High Counselor was captured trying to flee on a private ship. They brought him before Carter in restraints, the same kind of restraints that had been used on Ambassador. You should kill me, said. That is what we would have done. I know, Carter replied, and that is why we are different. Across the galaxy, Council forces surrendered one system at a time. The war that had seemed impossible to win was over in a single day. Human ships now controlled the most powerful positions in known space. Commander Torres approached Carter with a report. All military objectives have been achieved. Casualties are lower than projected. We have one admiral. Carter looked out at the stars. He did not feel victorious. He felt tired. The fighting is over, he said quietly. Now comes the hard part. Now we have to build something better. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Prime. The galaxy was slowly healing from wounds that had torn it apart. Admiral Daniel Carter stood in the great chamber of what had once been the Galactic Council. The same room where humanity had been sentenced to extinction now served a very different purpose. Representatives from 30 species filled the platforms, more than ever before. Small species who had been ignored for centuries now had voices equal to the oldest powers. Laura walked beside Carter toward the central platform. She had recovered from her imprisonment, though some scars would never fully heal. She was still the finest diplomat humanity had ever produced, and she had spent the last 6 months designing a new system of galactic government. Are you ready? Carter asked her quietly. Laura smiled. I have waited 2 years for this moment. On screens across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the ceremony. Some watched with hope, others watched with fear, wondering if humanity would become the new tyrants. They were about to learn the truth. Carter addressed the assembly first. When the Council betrayed humanity, they believed they were protecting the galaxy from a dangerous species. They were afraid of our strength, our adaptability, our endless drive to grow and improve. They thought the only way to be safe was to destroy us before we could threaten them. He paused and looked around the chamber. Many of the faces watching him belonged to species who had supported the Council's decision, species who had voted to wipe humanity from existence. They were wrong, Carter continued. Not because humanity was not powerful. We proved our power in battle, but strength alone does not make a species dangerous. It is what you choose to do with that strength that matters. He gestured to the empty seats where Council leaders once sat. We could have taken revenge. We could have done to them what they tried to do to us. There were many in our ranks who wanted exactly that. They had lost families and homes and futures. Their pain demanded blood. Marsh sat in the human delegation, listening carefully. He thought about the transport ship full of children he had saved during the battle. He thought about the moment he chose mercy over vengeance. It had not erased his pain, but it had given him something more valuable. It had given him peace. "But we chose a different path," Carter said. "We chose justice instead of revenge. We chose to build instead of destroy, because we understood something the Council never did. True strength is not measured by how much damage you can cause. It is measured by how much good you can create." Laura stepped forward to present the new charter. "The Galactic Assembly will replace the Galactic Council. Every species will have equal representation, regardless of size or age or power. Decisions will be made together, through debate and vote, not through the fear of the strong by the weak." She activated a holographic display showing the new government structure. "There will be no more secret meetings, no more plans made in darkness. If we are to trust each other, we must be honest with each other. This is the lesson humanity has learned through blood and tears. We offer it now to the galaxy." The representatives from other species looked at each other uncertainly. For centuries, they had lived under a system where power meant control, where the strong ruled the weak without question. This new idea frightened some of them. Ambassador of the rose from his platform. "My people have suffered under council rule for generations. We were told we were too small to matter, too weak to deserve respect. When we joined the human resistance, we did so hopping for freedom. What we found was something more valuable. We found partnership." He turned to address the full assembly. "The humans could have conquered us along with the council. They could have built an empire with their new power. Instead, they asked for our opinions. They treated us as equals, not because they were weak, but because they believed it was right. If they can extend such grace to us after all they suffered, perhaps there is hope for all of us." One by one, species rose to speak. Some expressed doubt, others expressed gratitude. But by the end of the session, the vote was overwhelming. The Galactic Assembly was born, and humanity stood at its heart not as rulers but as partners. After the ceremony, Carter found a quiet balcony overlooking the city below. Prime was busy with reconstruction. Council soldiers who had committed crimes against humanity were standing trial, facing justice under laws that applied equally to all species. Those who had simply followed orders were being given chances to make amends. Laura joined him on the balcony. "You look thoughtful." "I was thinking about everyone who did not live to see this day," Carter replied. "All the people we lost in the betrayal, all the sacrifices that made this moment possible. They would be proud of what we built." Carter nodded slowly. "I hope so. We had every reason to become as cruel as the council was to us. It would have been easy. It would have felt satisfying. But it would have destroyed everything that makes us who we are." A message arrived on Carter's personal device. He read it and allowed himself a small smile. "What is it?" Laura asked. "Reports from the colonies. The last of the detention camps has been closed. Families that were separated during the occupation are being reunited. Governor just sent word that 22B is ready for settlers to return." Across the galaxy, human ships were flying home. Children who had been prisoners were now free. Worlds that had been stolen were being given back. The long nightmare was finally ending. Marsh walked up to join them, wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Defense Force. He had been promoted to squadron leader, commanding a mixed unit of human and pilots. "The first joint patrol is ready to launch," he reported. "Human and ships flying together. A year ago, I would not have believed this was possible." Carter looked at the young man who had once been consumed by rage, and now gazed at the stars visible above the city. Human ships and alien ships flew in formation, working together to protect a peace that had been bought with so much suffering. "Now I think maybe the future will be better than the past," said. "That is worth more than revenge ever could have been." Carter placed a hand on the young pilot's shoulder. "That is the judgment we delivered, son. Not punishment, but hope. Not destruction, but a chance to start again. That is what humanity brought to the galaxy. Far across space, Earth turned slowly in the light of its sun. The threat against it had been defeated. Its children had survived the darkest chapter in their history and emerged stronger than before. They had proven that humanity was not dangerous because of its power, but remarkable because of its heart. And somewhere in the stars, the future waited patiently for them to find it together.